Test, test, check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't speak any more Spanish than that. Thank you. Just a moment here. All right, hey everyone. In case you don't know me already, I'm Tyson Dockenbaugh. I attend Martinsburg Grace Brethren Church. I'm a junior at Central High School, and I'm your guest speaker for tonight. Now, I know we're all having fun throwing gutter balls and falling on our faces, or bowling and skating, as some of you call it, but I just asked for a few moments of your time to just talk a little bit, and then we can get right back to having fun and doing that. All right? All right. So first off, I want to ask everyone a question, rhetorical question to start. What do we all have in common? You know, we all come from different families, live in different areas. Some of us go to different schools. So what do we have in common? And I would say there's one thing we all have in common with not just everyone in this room, but everyone in the world. And I would say it's that we all go through hard times and we all can feel pain. Now, everyone always questions why, you know, if there's a loving God who cares about us, why does he put us through this pain? Why does he let this happen to us? And, you know, that's a pretty logical question to be asking. You know, we always are curious about this. But that's one thing I like about the Bible. It offers real answers for real questions we have. So to open up tonight, I would like to ask everyone to turn to Ecclesiastes 7, 1 through 4. And now I also just wanted to point out that Ecclesiastes was written by the wise King Solomon, and that's why I wanted to speak specifically about this, to see what he has to feel on pain and suffering and how we can use that to build a legacy in ourselves. All right. Ecclesiastes 7, 1. A good name is better than a person... Wait, I'm sorry. That was my bad. A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death is better than the day of birth. Now, I know this can sound a little bit morbid, so let's break this down a little bit. A good name is better than fine ointment. So he's saying that it's better to have a honorable reputation and live a fulfilling life rather than have stuff, you know, maybe a nice car or have good grades or anything like that. It's important to be honorable and be kind. And then he goes on to say, the day of death is better than the day of birth. Now, he's not trying to say it's better when someone dies than when they were born. What he's trying to say is, when we're born into this world, we haven't done anything yet. We're this small child who has potential to do amazing things in this world, but we haven't achieved anything yet. And when we die, hopefully we have achieved this potential. Hopefully we have lived our lives fully and successfully and honoringly. And a good way to visualize this is graduation should be better than the first day of freshman year, or the first day of sixth grade should be better than when you move on to high school. Because when we first go into these places, you know, we're new, we can learn things. But when we graduate, hopefully we've taken everything we need from these places. And now, let's move on to verse 2. It is better to go to the house of mourning than go to the house of feasting, for this is the end of all mankind, and the living will lay it to heart. Now, King Solomon is comparing two places, a house of feasting, maybe a party or a celebration, and he's comparing a house of mourning, which is a funeral. And he's saying, you know, when we are celebrating, when we're doing all these things, we never stop to reflect that we have an expiration date. That always stops. When we're in high school, we just think to ourselves, you know, hit me up. Who wants plans? Who wants to hang out this weekend? We never think to stop. Are we using our time wisely? And how much time we have left till we graduate and how we can use it. When we go to a funeral, it shows us that everyone has an expiration date. We all go on to high school if we're in middle school. We all graduate high school. Inevitably, we all pass away and move on. And now, let's read verses 3 and 4. Sorrow is better than laughter, for by sadness of the face the heart is made glad. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of the fools is in the house of myrrh, or a feast or a party, like I said. Oop, bump that a little bit. Guys, I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little thirsty. I think I should have my lovely assistant, Joshua Stern, bring us some water. Thank you. Give me a hand, folks. Now, where was I? Now, that was gravity. I know some of you freshmen and middle schoolers may not understand that yet, but as we go through high school, we learned things go down. It's just how it is. And that's a fact of nature. And that's something I like about the Bible. You know, sometimes we can read things and they don't just apply to us, they probably apply to everyone, whether we believe in it or not. An example of this I saw, you know, it says how it's better to go to a house mourning because we reflect. Well, I saw a personal example of this in my life. When I decided to do this lesson, it was around the time my grandmother had passed away and I was attending her funeral. And I have this cousin. He has been very distant from the family. He was too busy living it up to ever stop or ever care about anything. But when our grandmother passed away, he decided to come back and mourn with us. And I felt like I saw a side of him I never have before, a more gentle and wise side. So it shows that even though we may think this Bible only applies to us or even just to some people, it applies to everyone and it will always be true. And what better way to look at this than look at also in Jesus' life and to show how God's love and his pain and suffering affected Jesus. Please turn with me to Hebrews 5:7. All right. During the days of Jesus' life on earth, he offered up prayers and petitions and fervent cries and tears to the one who could save him from death. And he was heard because of his reverent submission. Son though he was, he learned obedience from what he suffered. And, you know, to put on top of this, Jesus was a sad person. In Isaiah 53:3, it mentions that he was a man of sorrows and that he was familiar with pain. His close friend Lazarus was killed. His cousin John was decapitated. He was familiar with pain, but at the same time, he was probably one of the funnest people around. He was invited to parties. People enjoyed being around Jesus. They flocked to be with him. And this can show us that there's a balance between what we suffer and what we can enjoy, because God can use both to grow us as people. He taught Jesus obedience and submission through his pain. So what can we learn through ours? How can we use this in our lives, our pain and our suffering? Because if Jesus went through this, how does that not apply to us as well? So one thing just to remember between our suffering is we can always ask why we go through this pain, why we have these issues. But a better question would be is why can't we look positively at this? Why can't we use this to build a legacy for each other and an honoring character for ourselves? And also to show how God still loves us through this suffering, I would like to make a demonstration. I would like to call some young studs up here. Ben, could you please come up? And Jackson as well. Thank you, gentlemen. Wait for a second. Jackson, how much can you shoulder press?
135.
That's pretty good. I can do about 155 myself. And Ben, how much can you shoulder press?
220.
It's pretty good. Now, an interesting fact I bet many of you don't know is a coffin weighs about 400 pounds. And I don't know about you guys, but these are some pretty tough people, and I don't think any of us could carry this over our heads. And you guys can sit down now. Thank you. And it kind of shows how we should deal with grief. Maybe we couldn't do this ourselves, but maybe if Jackson and Ben and I all held up that coffin together, maybe it wouldn't be as much of a burden or as much of a suffering. God sent his son to suffer with us so that we may see his love, but he also gave us each other. He lets us carry each other's burdens and help each other. And he sent us friends and good people who go to youth group, who go to our schools, who love and care about us. And I would say that is proof enough as to show, we can always ask why there's this suffering, and we can try to hold it over our heads and carry it ourselves and push ourselves and keep saying it's fine. But we really can't do this by ourselves. We have each other and we have God. And That's just something to remember anytime we're all going through a difficult time or a hard issue. Thank you.